Well, thank you for joining today. Hopefully we'll have a few more join in, but I appreciate those of you who are on for being on time, and we don't want to keep you any longer than necessary. But we do want to present to you two major time bombs that are facing your business today and how our company, CyberCompliant, can help you diffuse both of them. So welcome. We are CyberCompliant. We are a partnership, as I will show you in a minute, between three cybersecurity companies, and we have pooled our resources to particularly address the issues and the challenges of the very small business market, companies under 10 employees, and particularly those companies who either are in New York State or have customers or clients in New York State, because being that you are falling under two important laws and not complying with those laws can provide significant fines if you are audited. So what do we want to accomplish this morning? I'm going to tell you a little bit about who we are. I'm going to talk about the threat matrix, the two ticking time bombs that are facing your business. I want to go over the regulatory requirements that are impacting you, whether you know it or not. One is the New York State SHEILD law, and the other is the New York Department of Financial Services regulations. We're going to talk about the impact on a business such as yours, which is small, the penalties that you might be facing, and what we can do to help ameliorate those problems for you. So who is CyberCompliant? Well, we are a partnership among three companies, Cyberlytica, the Garlic Group, and ID 360. We provide financial professionals and other small businesses with the tools and services necessary to ensure compliance with the recent mandatory cybersecurity regulations and laws. The New York SHIELD law and the New York Department of Financial Services cybersecurity regulations were designed to promote the protection of sensitive non-public information. We have a cost-effective services that are designed to take the regulatory burden off of you very small companies. Who are we? Well, the three partners include James LaPiedra. He is the president and CEO of ID 360. ID 360 works with a large group of companies, corporations, individuals, families, to provide identity theft education, identity monitoring, and recovery services. Jim was formerly a New York Police Department deputy inspector, and he also is a partner with a financial planning firm, Guided Professional Solutions. James is the author of Identity Lockdown, an interesting book if you're at all interested in learning about how your identity can be at risk. I am your host today. I am Andy Garlic. I'm the president and the CEO of the Garlic Group. My company provides cybersecurity, digital transformation, and IT support for very small businesses. I spent most of my career as a CIO of Fortune 50 companies. I'm well versed in both technology and management. Our third partner is Bob Schiff. Bob is the president and CEO of Cyberlytica. Cyberlytica has been in business for a number of years and is the provider of threat intelligence services for both companies and consumers. They have a suite of products that are available to combat cyber warfare. Bob himself has had over 30 years in the security industry. Why are we talking to you today? Because as I said, there are two ticking time bombs in your businesses. One is the risk of cyber threats, and the other is the risk of regulatory fines. Everyone reads in the paper every day about another company being hit with some kind of cyber attack. What's interesting is that 43% on average of small businesses lack any type of cybersecurity defense plans. And even more surprisingly, about 20% of small businesses do not use any endpoint security protections, antivirus, firewalls, things like that. The average cost across all companies of a cyber attack is close to $8 million. That would put you out of business. Most small businesses sort of ignore this. And at least 1/3 of the breaches in 2019 involved small businesses. Phishing is the top threat. That's where somebody in your organization gets an email, clicks on a link, and boom, you're out of business. And one of the things that is most prominent today of all the malware is ransomware. That's where you click on the link and all of the data in your computer is now locked, and you have to pay a significant payment to the criminal to get the key to unlock it. Most SMBs have reported experiencing some kind of data breach in the last 12 months. And at least half of small businesses that have been surveyed report keeping your data secure is the biggest challenges. One of the biggest challenges is that almost 70% of small businesses' employees' passwords were lost or stolen last year. And those passwords are for sale on the dark web. So anyone who has access to the dark web and has some Bitcoin can buy those passwords and then access all of your data. Be aware that it's happening today. Most of the data breaches that were against small businesses are financially motivated. They are looking for money. Well, you say, well, if they're looking for money, why don't they go to, a large bank or a credit union? Because those companies have large infrastructure in place and they are covering themselves against these kinds of attacks. Small businesses don't. And the criminals know that small businesses will pay to get their data back. And now in this era of COVID, where many people are working from home, that just increases the risk of a cybersecurity attack. This slide is interesting. These are 12 malware bugs. These are 12 ransomware programs. These are 12 viruses that were just created in the last several months. There is a whole industry on the dark web that is creating all of these bugs and more to attack your computers and your business. And there are new ones coming out every day. You don't even need to be a programmer to do this. There are sites on the dark web where you can buy viruses and buy services to attack people. So you don't even have to be clever. You can just pay for it and you have a program that attacks the computers for you. As I said, ransomware is the biggest threat that we're seeing today. And 93% of ransomware gets installed through some kind of phishing scam. So being aware of how phishing works and being aware of how ransomware can destroy your business is very, very important to you as a small business. So that's the first time bomb. Even if you think it's not going to happen to you, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So that's the first ticking time bomb. How do you protect yourself against these cyber threats? The second ticking time bomb are all of the regulations that the various states are passing right now. Right now, there's probably a dozen states that have significant regulations governing all businesses with regards to cybersecurity. I want to talk to you this morning about the two New York laws, the New York SHEILD law and the DFS cyber regulations that are impacting you, particularly if you're a financial advisor and you have either a company in New York or you have clients in New York. You could be incorporated in New Jersey or in Connecticut. And if you have customers or clients in New York, believe it or not, you too are going to be subject to these laws. So let's start with the SHIELD law. What is it? Well, it went into effect on January 1st of 2020. Now, this law impacts every company in New York. It doesn't matter what business you're in. It doesn't matter how big or how small you are. And it requires the company to develop a written company-wide cybersecurity program. It requires every company to appoint a chief information security officer. Now, that can be you. If you have a small, just a small practice, it's maybe 2, 3, 4 of you. One of the partners can appoint themselves as the chief information security officer, but know that the state will then hold you accountable for everything that a CISO has to do. The law does allow you to outsource the CISO, and one of the services that the Garlic Group provides for a very low cost is to be your CISO of record. The next thing that the law requires is that you conduct due diligence on all of your vendors to assure that they have appropriate cybersecurity internal controls. That could be your email provider. That could be your managed service provider. That could be your attorney, your accountant. It even goes down as far as to the people that provide janitorial and secretarial services to your company. Perhaps you have a shared space. And it requires that all of your employees be formally trained in cybersecurity good practices at least once a year. And anytime you bring on a new employee, and the law also defines employees as 1099 freelancers. So if you have someone on a 1099, the law considers them an employee, and they have to be covered under all of your policies and procedures as well. Now, the DFS cyber regulations have been in effect since 2017, and this impacts any company that's regulated by the department. So that includes wealth advisors, that includes insurance agents, that includes brokers, it includes public adjusters, it includes large companies like banks and credit unions and large insurance agencies. But for the most part, we're talking to you who are probably an independent wealth advisor or an independent insurance agent, and you are covered under these regulations. Now, all companies were to have been fully compliant by March 1st of 2019. We are now 2 years beyond that, and most small businesses have not yet complied. Now, I warn you that New York, like every other state, is now looking for money. Obviously, COVID has devastated the tax base, so the states are out looking for additional sources of revenue. So they are out sending auditors to all the companies who should be compliant, and they are fining them. So you may have gotten an email, from the estate saying you have not certified your compliance yet for 2020. If you don't do it soon, expect an auditor and expect a fine. Now, the regulations have 23 sections, and some of them are incredibly, incredibly draconian. And the whole purpose of these sections is for your company to implement a robust cybersecurity program. Now, that includes assessing your risk profile and then designing a program that addresses the risks that are identified in the risk profile. Now, if you're a small business, you do get some relief. As I said, there are 23 rather onerous sections of the law. If you're a small business, you only have to comply with about 12 of them. And a small business is defined by the state as a company that has less than 10 employees, and that includes contractors, or has less than 5 million in gross annual revenue, or has less than 10 million in end of year total assets. Most of the companies that we deal with easily fall under the 10 employee rule, which makes it very easy to get an exemption as a small business and be relieved from the more expensive and burdensome requirements of DFS. Now, what do these regs require? And I'm focusing on a small business. I'm not going to talk about a large business. So for a small business as yourselves, you have to establish a cybersecurity program. And you do that to comply with the regs by having a periodic risk assessment of both your internal and external risks. And those have to be documented. This program that you design must include processes for detection, response, recovery, and reporting if you are attacked. Based on this risk assessment, you have to have written policies and procedures. And these policies and procedures must be formally adopted by your company, by your organization, and shared with every employee. The regs require that these policies and procedures address a number of very specific areas, such as passwords. And that's a very good example, such as how you deal with third parties, such as how you deal with the disposal and destruction of information, whether it be on paper or whether it be on disk or whether it be up in the cloud. You have to have user access controls. The policies have to define how your employees and how your contractors get access to data and what data they're allowed to access, which means that you have to define your different levels of data so that it can be built into your policy. This risk assessment has to be done at least annually. This is not a one and done thing. The regs require that this detailed risk assessment be done every year on your company, and that your cybersecurity program change if anything significant changes in the risk assessment. The written policies and procedures must be such that it doesn't only address the people in your company, it addresses all of your vendors and addresses how you get some kind of certification from your vendors that they too comply with the regulations and the laws. All of this paper has to be on file, and if an auditor comes in, they're going to ask to see all of this. As I said, you have to have a policy that covers the disposal of your information. Your systems need to be monitored in order to detect unauthorized access so that you have kind of an early warning system. All of your employees have to be trained, and this has to be done annually, and you have to have a certificate on file that proves that your employees took the training. And then you have to have, in addition to all this paperwork, you have to have a written incident response plan. So if you do get attacked, if you do lose data, if there is any kind of problem, you have to have written down, these are the exact steps you're going to follow. These are the people you're going to contact. This is how you're going to contact your clients. This is how you're going to advise the state under the regulatory limits, so that all of this is defined ahead of time. So if you do get attacked, you know exactly what to do and exactly whom to call. Now, to certify that you are compliant with the DFS laws, you have to take two steps. You have to log into the DFS portal and file a request for the small business exemption. If you file the request, it's automatically given. I've not seen anyone who is denied after they certify that they're a small business. But you need that certificate so that if the auditor comes in and says, why didn't you do a penetration test? You can say, because I'm a small business and here's proof that I'm a small business. And after you have complied with all the regulations, after you've checked off all of the boxes, you have to log into the portal again and certify under pain of perjury that your business has complied with every single step. And you need to do this every year. Now, what happens if you don't? Well, the DFS has taken the position that each instance of exposure of non-public information. So for example, let's say you have 100 clients that you have information sitting on your computer up in the cloud that you have access to it. That information might include their social security number, their address, their telephone, their email. All of that is considered non-public information. And if that information were to be compromised or stolen, the DFS has taken the position that every piece of information is an individual infraction, and that can carry a penalty up to $100,000. Now you would think, all right, so I have 100 clients, that's $100,000, that would put me out of business. But no, the DFS has taken the position that the email, the social security number, the address, the name are all individual infractions. So that could easily come up to, $500,000 or more if they choose to fine you. Now we have seen penalties that have approached $250,000 for companies that have been audited and were attacked and did not have the controls in place. As I said, New York is looking for money, and last year they fined businesses close to $1 billion for non-compliance with these laws. Even a small fine could easily put you out of business. Keep that in mind. Now, in addition to the fines, if you're attacked and you do not have policies in place and you do not have procedures in place and you do not have controls in place, obviously your business reputation will be at serious risk. Clients will not want to put their trust and money in a company that is shown to be open to cybercrime. You will be required to provide relief to your customers. One of the things that you have to do is notify every single customer that you were attacked, and you may have to pay some kind of relief for them. I guarantee you will be sued. We have seen lawsuits left and right. And on top of that, the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act will hold you, the owner, personally liable for any failures. So keep that in mind. Now, you could say I have cyber insurance. Do I need to worry about this? Well, it does not cover all of your losses. And even if you have insurance and the investigator determines that you did not comply with the laws and regulations, or if you did comply and your employees did not follow your own procedures, they will deny your claim. We have seen an instance where a company was fully compliant, had cyber insurance, but the policies required that their employees change their passwords every 90 days. They were attacked. They put in a claim for their cyber insurance. The investigator came in and determined that one of the employees had not changed their password for 120 days. Because that employee had not followed the company's own cyber policies, they denied the entire claim. So keep that in mind. You need the procedures and you need to enforce the procedures. Now, we've heard a number of objections as to why you don't want to hire CyberCompliant or another company to help you become compliant. One of the common objections, well, I've got antivirus running, I'm covered. Oh, that's terrific. I'm glad you're running antivirus. But the laws and regulations are not really about the technology. They're about documentation and paper. They're about written plans that you have to have on file. You could have the greatest firewall, you could have the greatest antivirus, you'd be using a VPN, all the various tools that you have in place, but without the risk assessment documented and the policies and procedures in place, you will be fined because you are not in compliance with the law. Oftentimes we hear, my IT guy takes care of this. I'm sure he takes care of this. Well, a risk assessment will determine if you really are protected. And honestly, most MSPs, most IT guys do not provide what you need. They certainly don't provide the paperwork. And many companies simply say, I'll take my chances. Well, you can, but 75% of small businesses who are attacked are out of business within 6 months. There are very, very firm statistics that indicate that. As I said, the government is looking for revenue and they are assessing serious fines. So yeah, you can take the risk and say, I'm too small, they're not going to worry about me. But the question you have to ask yourself, can you afford to take that chance? So how do we help you? What do we do? Well, we first of all undertake a documented risk assessment of your business. We assess your physical environment. We assess your computers, your networks, all of your software. We look at your current protections in place to see if they're strong enough and if they're up to date. And we search the dark web for the last 7 years for any exposures to your data and credentials. And we provide you a full detailed risk assessment report. That's the first major piece of paperwork you need. Secondly, we provide you with a written policy manual that's customized to your business that addresses all the current cyber laws and regulations, including the policies, password policies, third-party vendor policies, data destruction policies, all the things that are in the regs that are required to be in your cyber policy. We deliver that to you. All you need to do is read it and adopt it. We can certainly change it too if you have some ideas that you want to change, but it's all there. We provide you with a written incident response plan. So these are what we've documented for you. These are the steps that you're going to take if there is any kind of incident. And we also provide you with a disaster recovery plan template. This template is a place to assemble all of the information that you would need to develop a formal disaster recovery plan. Now, we can't, because each business is different, in our base price, we can't provide you with a written disaster recovery plan, but that is something you can certainly contract with us to write if you want that. We provide you with a web-based training program for all your employees. You and all of your employees will get a link. You click on the link, you will be presented with a number of short videos to watch. After watching the videos, you simply make an attestation and you will get a certificate saying that you have been trained. So, and that's important too for the file. As an extra bonus, as part of the base price, we will provide you, your employees, and all family members with a full year of identity recovery and resolution services. So if on a personal level, your identity was ever stolen or compromised, we have a whole team that you can call who will help you recover it and do whatever is necessary to protect your reputation. And over the course of the year, we will provide you with regular updates on changes with the law and also provide you other documents and tools that might be helpful and useful to you to maintain your cybersecurity program. The whole idea for us is that this is not what you do. You're in business to serve your clients for both for financial purposes, for insurance purposes, whatever. You shouldn't have to worry about this. Pay us, we worry about it for you. Now, what does this cost? Well, this is an all-inclusive pricing. We charge $995 per entity plus $225 per employee. So a small business with 4 employees, let's say 2 financial professionals and 2 admins, would pay a one-time cost of $18.95. And that provides you everything that we've talked about in the slides up until now. We have competitors out there. Now, to comply with the law, you're free to do all this yourself. You do not need to hire anybody, but it is a lot of work, and you need to have a certain amount of skill to understand it. But you can certainly do it yourself. You're not required to hire anybody. You can look at our competitors that do similar things. We have looked at our competitors, and since most of them have structured their programs for the larger companies, their fees range from $15,000 to $40,000 per year for similar services. We have structured our company particularly for the very small business market. We want to be able to provide a comprehensive service at a price that a small business can afford. Now, we also provide a number of additional services for additional cost. As I said, you can contract with us for an annual retainer to be your chief information security officer. That means if anything goes wrong, you call us. It's like having a legal shield plan, with your lawyer, or an insurance plan, with your doctor. This is a plan where we are at call to you if anything goes wrong and to answer any of your questions. We can draft a detailed disaster recovery plan. What happens if we have another Sandy? What happens if you're out of power, you're out of internet? What happens if the building that you are in burns down? What happens if there's some kind of other disaster and the building's still there, but for whatever governmental reasons, you can't get access to it? Who do you call? What do you do? What's your backup plan? Where do you store your data? That's all in your detailed disaster recovery plan. We can help you write that. We can do penetration testing. This is required of the large businesses. It's fortunately not required of small businesses, but that's where we actually try and hack your computers. Now, this is a rather expensive proposition, which is why I'm glad it's not required of small businesses, but it is still valuable. We can do for a very, very small price. We can do a dark web search for all the family members and all your personal emails to get an idea of where you might be exposed personally. We can schedule regular phishing tests. So let's say all of your employees take the training, and then 3 months from now, we'll send an email out. It looks very legitimate. And it says, for more information, click here. They click on it, they're going to get a message saying you were just phished. Just to reinforce the fact that you have to be aware that the bad actors are very, very sophisticated. ID 360, in addition to the identity recovery services, provides a full suite of security services, including monitoring of all databases, all government activity, various things like that. They're available to you at a very, very reasonable price, a discounted price after you sign up for our service. And if the risk assessment indicates that your infrastructure does need some hardening, we can certainly help you by implementing firewalls, VPNs, backup systems, endpoint security. And if you're running Windows 10, you're probably not aware that buried deep in the operating system are flags that you can set that help fix all of your security settings within Windows 10 so that it hardens your operating system. So very quickly, just to give you some takeaways, if you want to comply, make sure that you use a reputable, proven, layered strategy. Make sure that your employees are educated. Lock down any remote connections. If you're working from home, be aware that it's a very unsecure environment. Delete any programs that you're not using. Many programs have backdoors in them, and the bad actors are taking advantage of these backdoors. Make sure that you always patch and bring up to date your operating system and any programs that you are using. Make sure that you're backing up your computers every night, preferably to a cloud in some kind of encryption method. Have strong password policies and enforce them, and continue to educate yourself on both the threat that the bad actors are offering all of us on a daily basis and how the changing laws continue to impact you. So I will stop there. And if anyone has any questions that you want to put in the chat, I'll monitor the chat. So if you want to take advantage of our services, you can contact me at amgarlic@cybercompliant.us. Check out our website, cybercompliant.us. Or if you're ready to sign up now, go to id360.com/compliant, enter your information, name, email, and a password. It'll take you to a page where you can sign up your business, and we will get started almost immediately. Now, I have to warn you that a number of emails have gone out from the broker dealers, pretty much giving people until April 15th to certify their compliance with these laws. Because of that, we are getting a little busy. So between now and April 15th, we only have a limited number of slots. So it's going to be first come, first serve. So if you're interested in becoming compliant, if you're interested in meeting the terms of the laws, and if you're interested in getting your own environment hardened against cyber attacks, get in line very quickly, and we will make sure that we can get you in this month. So, any questions? Let me see if I can unmute people. Seems to be a problem. All right, okay. How is a sole proprietor treated? The same as any other company. Yeah, the sole proprietor says you're under, you're a small business. So obviously you're a one employee person, and unfortunately you need everything that a 5 employee shop needs or a 10 employee shop needs. So obviously the cost would be lower because it's just one person. And then going forward, as I said, you have to do this annually. If we service you this year, we will notify you as the next year comes up, and our fees for subsequent years are obviously substantially lower because most of our work is done up front. But yeah, Barry, the sole proprietor is just the same as anybody else. Any other questions? Well, okay, thank you very much. We're coming on 45 minutes. I appreciate your attention this morning, and look for an email from us with our link if you wish to sign up. But if you want to get going today, you can see it right now on the screen. And if there's another question, okay, thank you, Brian, please do. Otherwise, I thank you all for your attention, and I hope you all have a very, very blessed weekend. Thank you all.